قال أريت إذ أوينا إلى الصخرة فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان أن أذكره واتخذ سبيله في البحر عجبا. Surah al-Kahfi, Surah 18, Ayat 63. Qala, he said, Joshua al-Islam said, Araita, did you perceive? We don't prefer the translation, did you see? I have explained that before. Did you perceive? Did you notice? Is when Awaina is, it's difficult to translate. Awaina ila as-sakhrati. How do we translate this? This word avaya, the root trilateral root words a, wa, ya. Otherwise, it will be pronounced awa. Anyway, so this root word basically means to take shelter, to take rest, to take refuge, those sort of meanings. Now, to retreat as well. Anyway, so those sort of meanings is implied. Now, how do we translate is awaina ila as-sakhrati? Is ila as-sakhrati? Because when we and it's in the past tense, and when we took shelter to the cave, you don't take shelter. Sorry, what am I saying? As-sakhrati, the rock. Because this verse appeared, I mean, a similar construct appeared in verse number 10. So, because this is the chapter of the cave, Suratul-Kahfi, and we have come across the companions of the cave, Ashabul-Kahfi, Waraqini. So, you remember the verse, I hope you remember, is awal fityatu. So, is awal fityatu, that part. Is awal fityatu ila al-Kahfi. So, that. So, Gumbaz al-Takra, the dome of the rock. Anyway, is awaina, we took shelter to the cave. Don't take shelters again. We took shelter to the rock, as-sakhrati. To the rock, we take shelter to the rock. You don't take shelter to the rock. You can take shelter beside or besides the rock, beside the rock. So how do you translate? That's what I'm trying to explain. So this word does not fit. If you want to do it with one word, when we betook to the cave, that would seem all right, but to betook or to betake is to go. But then the connotation of shelter and rest is missing now. To take shelter, to rest is missing now. So I have come up with a construct. It's a bit wordy, but I thought, according to me, this is the best way to preserve the connotation, the implied connotation, what is implied in this verse. Arabic has its own construct, English has its own construct. So the best way to do it, according to me, is when we intended to take shelter and rest and they were headed towards the rock. So ila is to or towards the rock. So what is it talking about? So they were fatigued, right? You remember the journey, and they had crossed over, and then so this verse is a sort of an explanation about the previous verse as well, because they were already a little bit fatigued. They crossed and they became more fatigued, and they had already crossed. They were feeling a little bit fatigued, so they want to take some rest, right? And maybe it's they have to cross deserts before they reach the junction of the two seas. So maybe they thought, okay, we'll rest in the shade of the rock. We'll find a rock, and in the shade of the rock, we'll rest for a while. So they were feeling fatigued, and then that discussion came up. Okay, what about our day meal? Ghada. What about a day meal? Lunch. In short, in easy but not the exact translation. I have explained that in connotation, in connection with the previous verse. So when we intended to take shelter and rest, so the verb intended to take shelter and rest, because you intended to do that, that is why you headed towards the rock. That is what is the meaning. When we intended to take shelter and rest and thereby headed towards the rock. So did you perceive, did you notice when we intended to take shelter and rest and thereby headed towards the rock? This is Joshua al-Islam speaking to Musa al-Islam now. What happened then? فَإِنِّي نَسِيتُ الْهُدَى. Then indeed I forgot to tell you about the fish. I forgot the fish. Nasitu, fault pattern. I forgot the fish. I forgot the fish. I forgot to tell you about the fish. Where am I getting this from? Just the next part of the sentence will clarify. I forgot to tell you about the fish. So, and there's a beauty. It's not just something implied. That is why in Arabic it is missing. Not always. Many times that is the case. Wherever that is the case, I have highlighted that. But here, there is a, what should I say? He is not afraid. What will Musa al-Islam tell me? He'll probably scold me now for having forgotten to inform this, because yesterday I told you the backdrop to the story. So the idea was the dead fish would come alive. That is where the junction of the two is fine, but another sign was the dead fish would come alive. So all these they knew, but still they prepared it for food and they were feeling hungry and fatigued. Similar things will happen when the reversal of roles, in the sense Musa al-Islam, who is now acting as the teacher, will now soon act as the student to Khidr al-Islam. So another person will act as the teacher. So it's interesting things happening. So this is hesitancy. I was searching for the word. Hesitancy coming through his speech. For inni nasitu al-huta, I forgot the fish. So something, you imagine a boy, maybe 13, 14 years old, I don't know. I forgot the fish. So that hesitancy. Then indeed I forgot the fish, because, okay, for inni, indeed I, nasitu is I forgot. So do I repeat the I twice? Normally not, as I've explained before. These sort of concepts have appeared before. But in this case, we might as well to express that hesitancy that's there in the words of Joshua alayhi salam, young Joshua. Then indeed, so did you perceive, did you notice when we intended to take shelter and rest and they were headed towards the rock? Then indeed I forgot the fish. So that tone you have to understand. Wama, and ma is no, but a stronger no than la. You've heard the la ilaha illallah. Okay. So ma, then verb, then illa, and then the subject, the ism, the noun. Okay, anyway. And no, we'll insert the no at the proper place. Ansa, ni, who, two attached pronouns now. Ni and who. Ni is nasiya, same word. Nasiya, nasitu, and ansa, nihu, same root word. Ansa, the first part is the same. It's in the verb form ho. So that is to forget, and this is to make forget, to cause to forget. Me. So none made me forget other than, okay. So he made me forget. The who is the attachment, he made me forget. But he is the negation. So he did not make me forget. And who is it he? A shaitanu, that's in the rafa status. You can see the dhamma over there is the subject. So, and no, none made me forget except a shaitan. Illa is there as well. The concept is not very complicated, it's very simple. And none but the shaitan made me forget. An adhkurahu, that I mention it, that I mention about it. But you know, an can also be translated as to mention. When we have a continuous sentence, we can do that. That's a valid construct as well in that language. And none but the shaitan made me forget to mention about it. To mention, not mention, mention about it. So mention about it, that I have also included for a proper explanation, tell you about the fish. You see the connection now? Okay. What takaza? And it took. There is an exclamation mark which we'll put at the end of the sentence. Sabilahu, the same sabil. Its way, and it took its way. Fil bahari, into the sea. Ajaban, in a strange manner. Exclamation mark is there. I'm reinserting the exclamation mark now. Now, many times I've told you, وَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ fil bahari ajaban. So ajaban is nasab. Should we not prepone it and push fil bahari later? Not in this case, because ittakaza already has an object, sabila. You can see sabila, not sabili, sabila. So that's the nasab. Fil bahri is in its proper place. The sentence per se is complete, and it took its way into the sea. The sentence is complete. Ajaban, in a strange manner. So that is why instead of akhaza, it's ittakaza. So interesting construct, and if you know the background, that the how you enjoy the story becomes so much more enhanced. So then Musa al-Islam will tell, oh, that is what we're seeking after. We'll read that when we do the next few verses. So I think that's it for today's session. So the sign was, I think about the sign also it is mentioned in the next few verses. If not, then I'll mention that part of the story as well. I have already made a passing reference to that in yesterday or day before yesterday's session, I guess. قال أرأيت إذ أوينا إلى الصخرة فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان أن أذكره واتخذ سبيله في البحر عجبا. He said, did you perceive when we intended to take shelter and rest and thereby headed towards the rock? Then indeed I forgot to tell you about the fish, and none but the shaitan made me forget to mention about it, and it took its way into the sea in a strange manner.